Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to another installment of Show to Be with Mike G, the show of life, the show of animals, the show of gin, Portland, SpeedRack, and so much more. Today we chat with Monkey 47 brand ambassador Lacy Hawkins as she travels the United States talking about this wonderful German gin, how it's made, how it tastes, how it makes her feel, the beautiful distillery site itself. She was recently in Texas. We sat down and chatted about her life, how SpeedRack was influential, how New York was an influential chapter, and so much more. So without further ado, I hope you guys enjoy this great chat with Lacy Hawkins.
I think people who don't love animals should not be trusted.
Oh my God, I was going to ask you that question next.
Like,
thank you for this.
That's a really weird thing if you're like, I don't like animals. Yeah. I think that's really strange. Do you mean with animals because I work with Monkey 47?
No, not literally, right? But it seems like you've got a connection to nature and to animals.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think, we're recording in Austin, and I've been hanging out in Texas this week. Austin and Portland are very, very similar.
That's right.
And as someone who's from Portland, I can really say that. And so you can probably understand, too, that there's sort of a culture within the community of Austin where there's a lot of respect for animals.
Yeah.
Or there's, even in terms of meat that you might want to consume, is it humanely raised? Is it truly farm to table? Do you have the space to keep chickens?
Yeah, that's a great point.
Or bees, or mason bees, or,
which you would know the distinction, which we'll talk about at some point.
Okay, great. Perfect. And in New York, there is a lack of that unless you have enough money.
Oh, wow.
So you don't get to have enough space to keep those sorts of animals.
Right.
I resist saying keep those animals, but have that luxury in your life. And there's so much to choose from in terms of consumption that you don't always get the option to say to your server, and quoting Portlandia, like, where is this chicken from?
Going to visit it.
Yeah. So I think that caring about what you consume directly correlates to ideally caring about animals a little bit, right? But again, anybody who doesn't like animals is fine. Like, is not okay.
Do you know anybody that maybe you're slightly close to that's like, no, I just don't like animals?
The people who are like, I'm not really a dog person. Yeah. I'm not really a cat person. And that's fine. Sure. But like people who just don't like animals, I think that's really strange.
Do you ever get anybody that says, no, I just don't really listen to music?
Yeah.
That's mind-blowing to me as well. Yeah. I know we're all like have this crazy look on our face.
Yeah. But it's like, I think it comes down to about priorities, right? Like I'm sure you know people who are like, I don't really listen to podcasts. Yeah, it's like they just don't make that a priority. Right? Like, obviously you're missing out. But they just don't really make it a priority. Yeah. So, and I think maybe the people who don't really listen to music, they probably read a lot.
Yeah.
Or maybe they draw a lot. I don't know.
But what do we do with our lives? And I say this honestly, without animals. To be honest, if I didn't have my beautiful beloved Shiba Inu downstairs, I don't know exactly if I'd feel as whole. So music's one thing, but what do you do without animals and that kind of connection to nature? Because ultimately that's what it is.
I think that it's really about how that connection maybe correlates in your own life.
Yeah.
So maybe for some people, their relationship with animals doesn't have a huge effect on their life.
Sure. But again, I think you and I agree.
Sounds like you had a pretty incredible experience today with vultures and snails.
Many animals.
I mean, enough to want to talk about it now. So
this is the thing.
Why don't I interview you
about animals,
and you tell me why do you like animals so much?
You know what? We'll keep it to this one question, of course, because this power dynamic is so uncomfortable for me to have people asking me questions.
It's just because I'm sitting on a higher stool.
No, I know. I like it. That's intentional, too. Don't let anybody know, but this is like totally a subconscious thing. But animals are innocent, right? They can't necessarily take care of themselves. Their connection to this purity and this lack of technology, this absence of overthinking, this absence of cerebralness where we over-intellectualize stuff. So it's like a simpler time, a simpler essence.
I don't know. I don't know about that. No, I think that's a very American perspective.
Yeah.
I think that in America, we view animals in two different ways. We view them for our consumption and our disposal and solely for our survival. And then we view them as our companions and for our pleasure.
Yeah.
And
so that sounds selfish though, doesn't it?
It's incredibly selfish. It's not like that everywhere else.
No.
You know? I mean, you look at like people going to China and Korea and, South Korea and trying to rescue dogs off of dog farms.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that is absolutely ridiculous to go to another country and shame them for whatever culture it is that they have.
Good point,
and their diet. The way that we treat cows in America, you don't see people from India coming over here being like, I'm going to rescue all these cows, right? Like the way that we treat animals that we eat is completely deplorable, right? So we can sit here and talk about dogs and how they're like man's best friend and how they're cherished, but
you're right.
We're not thinking that same way about.
You're right. We carry this Western lens wherever we go in the world, and we kind of impose our expectations on them. And I get that, but I do not, as much as I don't want to take part of it. That's their thing. That's cultural for them, and that's appropriate. Eating dogs in some places, okay, fine. I'm not going to bitch about it. That's kind of to your point. What's the point? It's not my beliefs. I'm not going to go to your house and say, no, sorry, you've decorated your entire living room wrong. Makes no sense whatsoever. But this story, and we're going to traverse lots of great things, talk about animals, talk about booze.
I have a feeling we're going to cover a lot of ground.
Good.
Just based on the way that things have started, I have a feeling we're going to really be bopping around a lot.
Good. Well, it's nice to sip some Monkey 47 and have a chat about life. We can talk about brands, which we will. Talk about the love of gin, which we will. But this whole thing starts in our sister city. Should it be a brother city or sister city to Austin, Portland? What do you think?
I think it should be like a Siamese twin city.
Dude, I like that a lot. But you are a native Oregonian, is that fair?
Oregonian, yeah.
Yeah, and you grew up in Portland proper, or did you live?
No, Portland proper, yeah.
What kinds of things were you getting into as a young person developing a Portlandian kind of mindset? Was it punk rock? Was it cooking? Was it sports?
Interesting. It was actually a lot of underground hip hop.
Oh my God.
I know.
Like hieroglyphic, is that fair?
Sure.
Yeah.
I was really into this label out of San Francisco called Quantum, which was like Lyrics Born, Latif, Blackalicious.
Oh, cool.
Coup. Yeah. But I was actually a very straight-laced. I mean, I even now I'm like a fairly straight-laced person, even though I like to have a good time. But as a kid, I did lots of sports. And
what kind of sports? Because you're like 5'8", 5'9", something like that.
I'm actually 6'3".
Jesus,
I'm not at all.
This whole stool thing is really messing up my perspective.
I'm not at all. I'm 5'7".
Okay, close.
Yeah.
What is that? What's the sport then? Softball? Do you play volleyball, basketball?
It was volleyball.
Yeah.
I played volleyball for a long time. Yeah.
Does that lead you to kind of an academic path in that sense? Sometimes no, not at all.
No, I don't think that any avenue would have led me down an academic path. That was just, I did not enjoy the Western style of education. And I think that it's really important after high school to take a small break and just be a human being for a little bit before you decide if you want to learn more in an educational, like a school setting, what you want to learn. Yeah. So
was there any expectation that you would go to college, or the folks and your family like, nah?
I think it would have been really great if I had gotten all of my college paid for, because my family could not afford to pay for college. Yeah. And I didn't take out any student loans. So the college that I did go and take, I paid for it all out of pocket. Yeah. So, I mean, I have no debt right now.
I envy you for that.
Yeah. I mean, I know someone who just they've been deferring their loans for, I don't know, years. And they just got a notice that was like, you owe $1,200 a month.
Oh, shit.
Who can pay that?
No, it's insane. And so I'm curious because this notion of Western education, that's all I've experienced. I don't really have a lot of different, for instance, I never went to school in Europe, which maybe could be classified as Western education as well. But what is that style like? What are the characteristics of a Western style education as you see it?
I think that learning for the sake of test taking and getting a certain grade on a test, I did not enjoy. Sitting in a classroom and listening and taking notes, I don't enjoy.
Yeah.
I'm someone I learn really well from like seeing things be done, getting my hands dirty, creating. I learn the best when I'm also teaching. So I appreciate more of a holistic class environment.
Yeah, traveling the world is a way to actually learn. Having to suffer, or not suffer, but having to find your way in a place you've never been before without technology, that's a great thing. Getting lost in a favela, right? Like, these are tough things, but actual ways to learn. When you talk about the connection to nature and to food, and of course I'm going to always ask, did you ever have a music career?
No. I can play the harmonica, but that's about it.
Really?
Yeah.
That's not
I think
bad.
anyone can play the harmonica.
Sure, it's just
easy.
an inward, outward motion with air, right?
Yeah.
But when do you think that was it your interest in the world that made you interested in food and alcohol, spirits, or was it an introduction elsewhere that kind of put you into this world and this path?
I think it was just, my parents were always really interested in cooking and eating different things, eating curious new things. I mean, I remember the first time I had a crepe when I was a kid, and they were into eating different things and cooking at home. And I was in charge of making one meal a week, whether it was like breakfast, lunch, or dinner, and there was kind of like no limits. It could be grilled cheese and tomato soup, or it could be something else. And I would pick out a recipe, and they would get the ingredients. And so, dining, food, thinking about what you're consuming was always a part of my life growing up. Yeah. And I also think that just the environment that I lived in Portland, that was something that you're in an environment where there are farmers markets and there are produce delivery services, and the grocery stores have just
amazing
a bounty. Yeah.
A bounty.
Yeah.
It is weird because we both, and then we'll talk about when you shifted and moved to New York, but I guess it's hard to get perspective on the opposite now, to think like, oh, we can't get good foods, or you can't get stuff that's, I know organic's not necessarily the term I want to use, but like I can go across the street into like this commercial grocery store, Texas only, but you get like some insane produce. We have so much access to stuff. Do you think that's a good thing or a bad thing to just have everything available in terms of produce all the time?
I mean, it's not realistic, right? But we also live in an economy where you can have avocados year round, and you can have grapefruits or cherries year round. Is it real? No, but like people are selling it, and Americans are buying it, and you're eating it. You're going across the street and getting it. So, if you wanted to have more of a local based diet and you wanted to eat things that were only grown in, let's say, a 200-mile radius of Austin, your diet would probably be limited in certain seasons. Maybe not. I mean, it's pretty warm down here, but
we grow some crazy stuff just within like 50 miles of here.
That's great. You should try it out.
It's called locavore. Is that ultimately? Have you done that before? Do you still do that type of diet?
I try to be really conscious about the things that I consume in general, but I would not call myself a locavore. I mean, I have a CSA subscription, and I pick up produce every week, and try to just be really conscious about the things I'm eating and how they might affect the environment in terms of the carbon footprint, because obviously I travel a bit for work, and I live in New York City, and I try to ride my bike as much as I can. But, I live in an environment where it's difficult to have a smaller footprint. So doing things like composting and purchasing vegetables from my local garden and stuff like that. So.
Well, and even to the extent where you were facilitating a chat with Claire and Kelsey in Chicago next month about sustainability, right? So have this sense of sustainability, and I'm hopping all around here, and this is the great thing about it is you're absolutely right there with me, every little topic, which I love, right? But sustainability, which Ian and Kelsey's traveling for Trash Tiki, which has been an amazing thing. Is it something that you've been thinking about for a long time, or the more that you travel, that's become something that's much more cognizant for you, sustainability and living that kind of imprint?
Like I said, I think I grew up in an environment where it was something that you thought about.
Yeah.
Did that mean that I was, as a kid, making sweeping moves to change certain things about my life? I don't know. I mean, I grew up in an environment where you always asked for paper instead of plastic, or you brought your own bags, or, you tried to walk when you could. And now in New York, I think that being sustainable right now is unfortunately, to say this word, trending, right?
Right.
It's unfortunate when something is trending, even if it's good, because eventually it will become exploited and it will eventually become untrendy.
Yeah.
But I think that what's happening right now is consumers are hopefully, ideally, becoming a little more conscious of the things that they're purchasing.
Yeah. And I think that it takes people like you that people look up to, right, to kind of be a gateway into that conversation. People like Kelsey, people like Claire, and the great group of folks in the hospitality industry that allow that to happen. So going back then, finally, as the entry point into the hospitality realm, did this start at a Marriott Courtyard? Is that the first gig?
Yeah.
So,
I mean, kind of. I mean, my first gig was like as a bouncer at this crazy Greek nightclub that was very corrupt and very corrupt.
Like a drug ring kind of thing? We had one of those in Austin recently.
No, I think it was just a lot of like Greek mafia, and they were building additional bars and apartments and offices within a giant building that they'd not approved any city permits. So it was just kind of a crazy place. I mean, I saw a lot of wild stuff there, and they trained me to become a quote unquote trained me. I mean, I couldn't even pour a pint of beer, and B, there was not really any training there. But eventually I left shortly after they burned to the ground.
Wait, is that a literal thing? It literally burned to the ground, or just fundamentally, structurally?
Fundamentally, structurally.
Corruption will do that, right? Take you straight down.
Yeah, I actually had to think about if there was a fire in there, because it would totally be possible that there was, yeah.
Tangent, was there blood on the floor? I just imagine there are many shootings.
At times, absolutely.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. It's weird. You never think of like crazy clubs in small cities like Portland, but yeah, it was nuts. I mean, when it was like the only place in town, so stuff just got weird.
That's great. How long were you there roughly?
As a bouncer, I don't know, maybe like I don't know. I want to say less than a year, because I don't want to say I was there for a year, and I would be I don't
want to unearth any feelings from the past or anything.
I would be surprised if I was there for a year. I think it was certainly less than a year.
Man, did you see it? Are you a tough person? I mean, being a bouncer at a place filled with Greek mafia folks seems like you'd have to be pretty gritty to be able to do that.
I think I'm a really smart person. Okay. So, and I think if you're a good bouncer, you don't have to be tough. You just have to be smart. Brains
not
have
brawn,
to be, right? Yeah. I mean, brawn causes fights.
Yes,
brains don't. So
yeah, that's a good point. And it's true diplomacy, right?
Yeah.
The Kissinger method, if you will. So Courtyard Marriott, which is maybe number 2, but this job a little bit calmer, a little more tame, less gunshots potentially.
No gunshots.
Oh, good. That's great.
Calm and more tamed. I guess it just depended on the night.
Yeah.
It's a weird place to bartend at it's weird to bartend at a hotel bar in general, but then to bartend at a Courtyard Marriott is just very, very, very weird. So, I think I was there for maybe about 2 or 3 years.
No kidding.
Yeah, too long.
Way too long. 2 to 2.
Money was good. Money was very good. And the looking back on it, I just go, wow, I didn't have to do anything there, and the money just would roll in. It was great. I mean, but Oregon in general, you have a high minimum wage, so in addition to your tips, you're always getting like high minimum wage, low taxes, unless you own a home.
Yeah,
the housing taxes are pretty high. So
no sales tax, right?
No sales tax.
That's nice. I love dining in Portland for that particular reason.
And they pump your gas for you.
That's good, but I am capable. I do feel a little...
I am not. So, no, I still have to have people help me pump gas if I'm ever driving in a different state.
Man, that's interesting. I'll put it that way. Because I don't want to just I feel like then I'm so like helpless, and I'm not. You know,
I love it. Not having to pump gas.
That's nice.
Pull up. They're very nice to you. Yeah. You're creating jobs.
That's a good point. I didn't thought about
they
that.
pump yours. This is very nice.
Yeah, it's not a bad. White gloves always nice, right? White glove service.
These people are not wearing white gloves. Just
no,
so
I know. It's a but as far as I'm concerned, a nice.
It's a luxury.
Metaphor. Absolutely.
If you're in Oregon or New Jersey.
Yeah. Oh, New Jersey as well. I didn't realize that. After stepping away from the Marriott, did you think, okay, you know what? The money's good. This hospitality thing, maybe pouring some booze to some regulars day in, day out or whatnot. Did it seem like that was the next step for you? You wanted to dive more into that field, or were you looking?
Yeah. I think I cut my teeth at the Marriott, and a friend of mine, one of my best friends, his name's Adam Ho. He was opening up a bar and restaurant called Locavore, and it's a Vietnamese restaurant in Portland. Highly, highly, highly recommend going.
I love Vietnamese food.
Be prepared to wait in line for a minimum 30 minutes.
Really?
No matter what time of the day you go.
Small spot? Big spot?
Big spot. Yes. Long line.
Those are the best places.
Yeah.
Easily.
You'll wait every single time. I was just there on last Saturday, and I waited outside for 30 minutes.
Oh, that's great.
And I used to work there. So, like, they were still giving me VIP treatment, and I was waiting. But, yeah, I worked there for about 2 and some change years or so, and helped develop the cocktails there, and just helped, what Look Lock is today is completely different from when I was there, which should be said for any bar that you've been away from for about 5 or 6 years. And then at the same time, I was working at Nostrana, which is
What's Nostrana?
It's in Portland on, I think probably maybe 14th and Morrison or something like that. And it's a Italian, very, 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 very seasonal. Like you'll have a particular berry, like a wild, huckleberries only grow in the wild. So you'll have like huckleberry jam for 3 days of summer. Very, very, very seasonal Italian restaurant that is really, really incredible.
When you think, because it's interesting, so you have a Vietnamese genre of food, if you want, cuisine, an Italian genre. If you think about the corresponding spirits and the corresponding flavors, they're very, very different. Some overlap, I'm sure. Did you feel like it was a different lens or a different chapter in how you constructed drinks, being kind of rooted in Asian cuisine and then rooted in Italian?
I think they both complemented each other very well. I think that having two contrasting environments just made me enjoy each one that more and gave me more skills and more tools. And creating drinks was a challenge in both places, albeit very different for both spots.
Do you fancy yourself a creative person?
I think that anyone who works in the beverage industry is a creative person. Yeah. And even if they don't call themselves that, because maybe they don't have the urge to grab a pen and start doodling, right? That they are a creative person, because what you're doing, you're creating flavors, you're creating drinks, you're creating menus, you're creating potentially an experience for your guests. Sure. So if you don't consider yourself to be creative, you should just maybe rethink what creativity is.
That's a good point. Yeah. Does underground hip hop ever give you some sparks of inspiration?
No, it doesn't. It's not something that I wish I could tell you that it did, but no, it doesn't give me sparks of inspiration.
That's good.
It's a music I enjoy listening to, but I don't find that it fuels my drive for creativity.
What fueled your drive to be a beekeeper? When did this hobby or even semi-profession begin for you?
My family are beekeepers, and it was just kind of like,
second generation or even longer.
We're gonna question you and your, place in this family. So my grandfather and my uncle and my stepmom and me, and so that's sort of where it.
That's very
started,
cool. Yeah. Is that fair to say? Third generation beekeeper?
Yeah, that's fair to say.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
I've never met a beekeeper, no less a third generation beekeeper.
Yeah.
That profession or that trade, how do you sustain that in New York if you're still able to sustain it there?
I don't currently keep honeybees in New York. That's something that people tend to get a little paranoid about. And it's ridiculous that they do.
What are they afraid of bees, right? They get stung, it hurts, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But you see more humane, gentler side of bees?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like drinking mezcal, right? Like maybe you taste it and you don't like it, but if you taste it and you know something about it, then you're like, oh, okay, I get it. So it's the same thing with bees. It's like if you don't know anything about them, you don't like them, but if once you learn about them, you realize, oh, they're not so bad.
Yeah.
I think that there's been fear and paranoia put into people around bee stings. Mm-hmm. And I think that doctors, in order to cover their ass, have just been giving people EpiPens and telling them that they're allergic. And the reality is that it's 0.01% of the American public is allergic to bees in a deathly way.
Yeah.
Otherwise, the reaction you're going to get from a bee sting is totally normal. Swelling, itching, redness,
sure, like a mosquito bite in a way, right?
It would be like a very large mosquito bite. Yeah. But, bee venom is also used in rheumatoid arthritis and injected into people's fingers for
anti-inflammatory.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you
get a bad rap.
Bees, keeping bees in New York. If your dog bites someone and someone says, your dog bit me, right, they need to be put down. Okay. Obviously, like extreme situation, right? Sure. They would then have to prove that dog belonged to you.
Okay.
Okay. If someone, and this is a law in New York, someone gets, let's say I have bees in my backyard and my next door neighbor gets stung by a bee.
Yeah.
And they're like, those bees stung me. They need to be gone.
Oh my God.
That neighbor would then have to prove that those bees belong to me. You can't.
Perfect.
You never can. But landlords don't like that story. And so, the community gardens that are in my neighborhood all have bees, which is amazing. Cool. And they don't need my help. So it's great. That is the best. When everywhere in my neighborhood has bees and they don't need my help, I think that is an ideal situation.
It's a great place to live. Bring you back to home in some sense.
Mm-hmm.
After getting stung by bees multiple times, does it eventually get less and less painful and less allergic, or is it always as painful?
I think it depends on the person.
Okay.
For me, your reaction to the bees, and I don't mean like your physical reaction, but I just mean like how you mentally and maybe what you do immediately after getting stung is totally different. Like you go, oh crap, I just got stung again. Like, and you'll put some baking soda and water on there, and it'll be fine. And
that's a good tip.
Yeah.
I heard that WD-40, that's an old one.
Don't do that.
But that's what I've heard.
I would never do that.
Just because
that sounds
WD-40.
terrible. I don't even put WD-40 on my bike chain.
It's a strange thing, and it smells very, very like out otherworldly.
Yeah. It's like smelling gasoline when you go to pump gas, where you're like, I know this smell isn't good for me, but somehow I'm smelling it because it reminds me of something that I think I know.
Yes.
Or that
I love that. It's alien, but there's hints of something familiar, maybe even familial. But it's nice that you still have this connection to the bees. And I think it's a very intriguing thing. Is it something you ever think about returning to full time? As we'll talk about this shift to New York and really, really taking center stage. And then you have the SpeedRack piece as well, which we'll talk about. But do you ever return to the bees when you set off into retirement and just kind of hang out with the bees?
Yeah, and I don't really feel like I've ever not been a beekeeper, and so I don't. For me, there's no returning. I don't feel like I've really left. So
I like it.
While I am not actively keeping bees in New York right now, that's really just because I know that I don't think I have the time or the resources today to find a sustainable and long-lasting place to keep bees.
It's very responsible of you. Yeah. It really is. So I've had the pleasure of speaking with some wonderful participants in SpeedRack. So Elise Blackman, Ivy, and it seems to be something that is a very, very punctuating chapter in your career, maybe probably your life even, because everyone that I've talked to that's participated said the level of skill, the level of attention, the level of camaraderie exceeded anything they've ever experienced before. How formative was the SpeedRack experience for you in terms of being an adult, being someone that is embracing the world?
Mm-hmm. I think that in terms of my own adulthood, it it helped shape my career, which, was really lovely.
Yeah.
But I would have become an adult either way, right?
Of course, yeah.
I think that SpeedRack gave me the opportunity to see what opportunities existed. I mean, I remember the first time that I ever saw a video of bartenders in SpeedRack, and I just thought, oh my God, is that something I can do? Is that, wow. And I said to my friend Adam, who opened Look Lock, like, if they ever come to New York, we have to do it.
Yeah.
And then if they ever come to Portland, I'm sorry, we have to do it. And then they were coming, and I was just so nervous and so scared. And I think SpeedRack is an opportunity for bartenders to showcase their skills, to sometimes hone in their skills. But I think it's really, really, really important for men to stop and watch other bartenders do a good job.
Yeah.
And it's really important I think, SpeedRack has had a huge hand in shaping a lot of careers and provided a lot of opportunities and really helped change the conversation around bartending in America.
Yeah.
But it was also what we forget to mention is like, it was really important for men. It's really important for men.
Interesting.
To be a part of SpeedRack as a participant.
Yeah.
And the effect that it has had on men to see bartenders that don't look like them do very well, I think has been pivotal. Because if we don't have equality and if we don't have intersectionality, then you have otherness, and it's you don't achieve the results of having a diverse environment as a bartending community.
Yeah.
The what happened with SpeedRack 5 or 6 years ago, with bartenders being able to showcase some of their skills and having a platform to show, hey, I'm actually really good at my job and you should take notice. We're seeing that now in the same light with people of color in the beverage industry. And it's really good for white women to see that. It's really good for white men to see that. And it's time. And if you're not a part of the conversation, then you are actively, disagreeing, and it's not okay.
The conversation is the key point here, I think, because what we're having is a conversation. There are details. There is repartee, if you will. So we're going back and forth about this concept. I think, rather the way to phrase this as a question is, with social media, because we all, whether we're representing a brand or representing ourselves, which are a brand of ourselves, we give these little sound bites, these little succinct notions of a concept that is far more complex. So do you think that the absence of an actual conversation is contributing to things becoming compartmentalized and less varied, less diverse?
I don't know. I don't know if we can sit here and have that conversation. Yeah. I think that there need to be some other people in this room before we continue that conversation. If we're going to talk about intersectionality, I think we might need to be more intersectional. You know what I mean? I think it's a little bit self-serving, maybe to have a conversation around what I think needs to happen, and I'm ready to listen to what maybe other people have on their agenda and how I can potentially support that.
Understood. Yeah, it's good having these conversations with multiple people, one-on-one, off mic, on mic. I think all of it can be productive. Ultimately, that's the end goal for me, is that if I get to talk to someone that's different than me, that has a different background, I can learn, and I can try to empathize to the best of my ability, although I'll never truly understand what you've been through or anyone else truly that's been in this chair that you're sitting in. So I think it's good to hear your experience, and SpeedRack is, in your opinion, a positive thing to promote intersectionality. I think is the word that you use, which is an interesting word. I'm going to have to add that. It's been a positive thing, and it still resonates and is a positive thing?
Absolutely. Mind? I mean, I think SpeedRack in general is alive and well. I mean, I think it's coming up on maybe its 7th year. I believe it's the 7th year, and there are still so many different people who are applying and so many people who are competing. I mean, it's not like it was just a flash in the pan. There are a lot of people who are really, really willing and excited and ready to participate in SpeedRack. And I think that it just goes to show that there wasn't sort of a top tier of bartenders who were competing. It is the community overall is still very much, excited and ready to be supporting SpeedRack and participating in it.
From the people for the people, it makes and shapes a lot of careers, but it's good that it gives just those access points to people that just want to participate and be part of that community. So the next big chapter before you take on brand work here with Pernod Ricard with Monkey 47 is New York. And really for me, you have this illustrious career there as well, Clover Club, just to mention one. What was the impetus then for moving to New York? Was it career? Was it personal? Was it something just altogether different?
It was fully for my career. I think that I had recently ended a long-term relationship in Portland and had a clean slate. And so I was in a position where I could either sort of start to lay down new roots in Portland again, or I could just go somewhere else. And a very good friend of mine had moved to LA a couple months prior and also encouraged me to just go somewhere else. And so I moved to New York with the intention of work coming here for my career. And that was really the opportunity. I landed on the 21st and I interviewed in Clover Club I interviewed at Nomad on the 22nd and Clover Club on the 23rd and was able to start both of those jobs at the same time. And truly it was, I just, I can't say this enough. It was 95% timing and 5% luck. It was truly what it was. I did not have the skills to be working in those places at that time. I learned a lot, and my brain melted for about 6 months because I was learning 2 wildly different cocktail programs and working nonstop and truly nonstop. I mean, Nomad is not a place for the faint of heart, and it's not a place for someone who just wants to get a promotion, because it's a place where I was talking with one of the bar managers there recently, and he was saying, someone had asked, what is your general longevity of your staff? And he was like, well, about 2 years. People stay a minimum about 2 years.
Wow.
And I mentioned to him at the time, I was like, yeah, that's because that's how long it takes to actually feel comfortable there. Wow. It'll take 2 years before you feel like you can walk into a shift at Nomad and go, okay, I'm ready. Come at me. I'm ready for whatever's going to happen tonight. It will take 2 years.
Do you like that feeling though, that things aren't perfectly easy? That they're just there's some slight stress there.
Sure. I think bartending is slight stress, no matter what, whether you're working brunch or lunch or dinner or late night, there's always a bit of anxiety and stress when you're bartending. There's a bit of a hustle and there's a bit of, timing and things are of necessity at that moment. There's time is of the essence.
Right.
But I like that feeling at Nomad?
Yeah.
To an extent. I think that you have no choice but to become a better bartender.
Sure.
When you've got 4 people deep and it's 50 feet across and you are standing in front of a wall of thirsty zombies. You have no choice but to become a better bartender. You have no choice.
I like that. It's when you're forced to innovate, you have to, right? When you're forced to succeed or you're forced to survive, that's exactly what you do. Given those 2 programs, which are incredibly rigorous, was there a point where you're like, I can't do this. I want to walk away. Or was that never a notion?
I didn't ever feel that way. It was more just like, I don't know how I'm going to do this, or I don't know what I'm doing, or I don't know. Yeah, that was really it. But you move past that and you have stronger, that feeling one day, and then the next day you realize, oh, okay, I made it through. And while those 2 programs are very, very challenging and opposite ends of the spectrum in terms of bartending style and culture, it's just bartending.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, it's just making drinks and,
sure.
And it's just like being nice to people, and it's just cutting garnish a certain way, and it's just grabbing ice, and it's just wiping down bottles, and it's just turning off the lights. And I wasn't saving lives. Do you know what I mean? I was not saving any lives. Yeah. I was not doing that. So while I might have been carrying some of that stress, like it's totally unnecessary. And I think that bartenders take a lot of pride in their work, and sometimes they don't stop and go, okay, it's time to take pride in yourself.
Oh, that's a great point.
So how are you going to take care of yourself and give yourself self-love so that you can come into this job and be a better human being?
Yeah.
You know?
I think, well, it's enlightenment, being enlightened and kind of just growing. Health is a huge thing, you know, and we'll talk about that in a moment, but you had a nice change of pace, I would say, in terms of the programs and the things that you were learning and the urgency and the immediacy and perhaps the anxiety levels. Was there a moment where it was intentional to shift to the brand side, or was that also a natural progression to move from behind the bar into this role now with Monkey 47?
Before shifting into a brand position, I actually moved away from Nomad because I wanted to travel. Yeah. And because of the rigorous schedule there, that's not something you can really do while working there. So I went to travel for a while and got my shifts covered at Clover Club. So that was great. I just had to cover my shifts and I could come back to that job, which is amazing. I was ready for a challenge and I was ready for something new. I was ready for something different, and I was open to what that might be. If that meant a bigger role at Clover Club, then that would have been great. But a brand ambassador position came my way, and I was really lucky that it was a brand I really liked.
Yeah,
and I really respected. So I think that it has become a trend lately that a brand ambassador position is somehow the next step in a beverage industry career. Right. And that's really unfortunate because you have a lot of people accepting positions with brands that maybe don't have a lot of integrity and aren't paying what they should be. Mm-hmm. And you have bartenders who are very young and inexperienced being exploited. And so I want that to change. I want people to be accepting brand ambassador positions because they love the brand, because they're ready for the challenge, and I want them to be supported by their employers.
Do you feel a duty as a notable person that is on this center stage of hospitality that you can give some insight and that you can kind of educate and prescribe how these roles should be filled and that how companies should hire? Do you feel like any kind of duty to the industry to do that, or is it just you need the information to be out there?
I don't feel like I have the wherewithal to be advising companies on how to hire, but I do feel like I have the means to be able to advise other bartenders as to what they should be asking for, whether it's consulting or brand ambassador or a bar manager or a new position somewhere. If we can all create an industry standard and stop accepting peanuts and a pat on the back and a measly media post, then us as an industry as a whole will begin to be taken more seriously, and you'll start to see the fruits of that. Yeah,
it's interesting. I mean, there are all kinds of brands though too. Some that just really want to turn and burn. They're not really about the experience of the brand, the aesthetic, the beauty, the connection to the people in the place. And that's business for you. I mean, obviously, it's no surprise to us. But Monkey 47, this German gem, if you will, is 47% ABV. I've been sipping it, so I've had some nice time to kind of just coddle it a little bit and have just a nice experience with it. I've never sipped a Monkey 47 by itself. Had it in a few amazing cocktails. But you recently were there, and you took some beautiful photos of the ornate, opulent botanicals, the beautiful boar babies that were milk fed, or bottle raised because her mother was hunted and all this. What was it like? Was that your first time having been at the facility?
No, I've been there about 3 times, and I'll be going again next month. It's a tough life.
Yeah, man. What does it feel like to be there?
It feels like everything has already been thought about before you even get there.
Really?
It feels like there's a place for everything and everything is in its place. Yeah. It feels like you feel at ease just because everything is so aesthetically pleasing and so put together. No detail has been left untouched. It is warm and comforting and it's not sterile, but it's just very, very, very put together. Everything. It's like
intricate, just every detail thought out.
Everything from the handle on the the still to the basket that holds citrus. Yeah. Every single thing has been poured over to go, is this the best quality? Is this most aesthetically pleasing? Is this going to make the best gin?
Yeah. It is, if I understand correctly, it's a sugar beet base, sugar beet alcohol, like some French absinthe, I guess, or some of that, they use that. So this place, is it, I imagine like this mystical forest, right?
Yeah.
Is that kind of where it is?
Yeah, it's in the middle of the Black Forest. It's very much like Grimm's Fairy Tale or Hansel and Gretel. That's exactly what it's actually exactly what it looks like.
And how long has this gin, this miraculous concoction of 47 botanicals, if I understand correctly, when was birth given to this particular gin?
About 8 years ago.
8 years.
Yeah. And it's only been in the US for, I want to say, maybe around 3.
Yeah.
But we're only really seeing it probably the last year or two. While it's sort of peculiar and to Americans to think of a German gin, it's not to Germans. Eaux-de-vies, schnapps, brandies, fruit brandies, gins, those have a really long, rich history in Germany. And even Geneva, which is the oldest style of gin, is made in parts of Germany. So you've got an area of the Netherlands, Belgium, parts of France, and parts of Germany is where that can legally be made and called that gin. So
all that gin and Jennifer. So you were in Dallas. Was it yesterday or the day before? That's on your docket.
I was in Dallas yesterday. And the day before, but yes.
The rock star lifestyle, man.
Oh, man. My tour bus is outside.
I know. It's like Willie Nelson style. It's all vegetable oil. That's how you're running that thing out there.
Yeah, it's like a French fry mobile.
It smells so good. And there's a Whataburger back there, so it's hard to determine where the smells are coming from.
Sure.
Texas is very open to gin. Texas loves Monkey 47 too. The places I've been, whether it's on North Loop or downtown, cocktails are pretty incredible. You're coming into town to educate people and sample them on the gin. Do you have any particular objective for Texans, if you will, in your stay here?
In terms of sort of educating some of the beverage industry, my objectives are that they know why Monkey 47 was so expensive and still is in some cases. That they know why this is a gin that's incredibly unique and the leader of the category and beyond anything else in the gin category, that they feel like they can walk away with not only more knowledge about Monkey 47, but more knowledge about the gin as a category overall, and that will help them create a great guest interaction and get them to sell some gin.
What does make Monkey 47 so unique? I wasn't at the seminar today.
We should have started with that. Well, it's made in the middle of the Black Forest in Germany.
Oh, I see. Okay.
With 47 different herbs and botanicals. Has a cult following all over Europe and Asia.
I noticed it in China all over the place. Yeah. It's crazy.
Made from a neutral sugar beet molasses distillate. It's made in a 100-liter still.
Crazy.
So it literally comes off of the still in a pail, in a bucket. There's no forklift. There's no hoses and tubes and pipes and anything. You pick up the pail with your hand. Everything's made by hand and not in a it's not like PR. It's you don't need heavy machinery when you're making gin in such a small, intimate fashion. Monkey 47, the ingredients are predominantly fresh crushed lingonberries, citrus that is fresh and peeled by hand by actual people, juniper berries that are crushed open, over 15 different varietals of peppercorn that are all crushed before being used in the gin. And afterwards, it's oxidized after it comes off the still. So
how long is it oxidized?
100 days in a 1,000-liter earthenware clay vessel. So you have a little bit of oxygen exchange through the pores of that clay. Helps the spirit open up, soften a little bit, settle. It's blended with water from a reservoir in the Black Forest. It's very low in minerals, low in sodium, very soft, great for blending with spirits.
It's delicious. I mean, it's, again, handmade's weird because that's your point, right? You're like, well, we're not trying to say it because it's fancy. We're saying because you don't need a 100-liter still. You could get 2 guys to carry it probably, once it's attached. So I like the small batch nature of this. And the perception so far, or the reception rather, it's been quite positive. I mean, the overwhelming
feedback I get from people when I taste them on Monkey 47 is, oh my God, that's amazing. That's the best gin I've ever had. Wow, I can't believe I'm drinking this neat. That's so good. And then it's usually followed up with, where's the regular size bottle and why is it so expensive? So we actually made a 1 liter bottle exclusively for American bars.
That's great.
We worked the price a little bit and we're able to bring it down so that people can put it on their menus now. I mean, it was a great problem to have. Bartenders weren't saying, I don't want to carry this gin. They were saying, this is amazing. Not only do I want to carry it, I want to put it on a menu.
Yeah.
And I need to put it on a menu at a rate that my guests are going to want to buy. So, I want to be using more of this gin. So we made the 1 liter bottle exclusively for the American market. And I don't know of any other brand or spirit that would go listen so well and then go, okay, I'll put it in a bigger bottle and I guess I'll bring the price down. You know what I mean? So, and for it to happen so quickly too, it happened 11 months after I started.
Man, how long in total have you been in the role now?
About 13 months.
Oh, cool. So just over the year mark.
Just over a year.
Feeling more comfortable with it? Feeling like you're hitting a stride now?
Yeah, sure. I think there are challenges and rewards, and I'm constantly challenged with this position. It's great. I have a really, really incredible group of people who support me, and I'm in really good hands.
It's incredible. It's great. Product, obviously a good crew here in Austin with RNDC and with Pernod Ricard. So I got 2 questions left for you.
Okay.
This journey that we've been on, this conversation itself. I read recently in an article that if you were to make a cocktail for anybody, you would have wanted to make a cocktail for Tom Petty. This was before he had passed. So thinking about that concept, if you could share a drink, whatever you want, anywhere in the world, doesn't matter, and you could share a drink with anybody living or deceased, who might, and of course there could be multiple answers, but who might you like to just sit down and have a conversation with?
Probably Prince.
Yeah. Did you hear about the fentanyl thing this week? They found record high amounts of fentanyl, which I didn't realize.
Yeah, I think that I actually had heard that a while ago that he had a lot of body pain and was taking a lot of pain pills.
That was the rumor, right? But I didn't know specifically that one. But an eccentric guy, what do you think Prince would drink? I don't know if I've seen him drinking before.
I am not worthy to predict Prince's preferences. I imagine if I ever shared a drink with Prince, there would have to be like a curtain or a screen in between us, because you're not allowed to even make direct eye contact with him. I actually recently heard that when he would go and do sound at his sound checks for his shows, he would talk to his sound person, who would then talk to the person in the booth, but he would never talk to. He was he was a very eccentric and particular guy. But I also think it was all about self-preservation. Sure. He did what he had to do to protect his creative process and to protect himself from, I think, the media goblins.
Yeah.
But
ultimately, his demise, in fact, being so surrounded by himself. These geniuses, it's hard, I think, as life goes on, to just keep innovating, that pressure to do that. Well, last question for you is, where are you off to next? You've been in Dallas, you've been in Austin. What's the next stop in the tour bus?
I'll go to San Antonio in the morning.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I'm going to host a Monkey 47 educational at Jazz.
Oh, cool.
And meet some folks out there, and then I'll be there for the evening, and then I fly back to New York early Friday morning.
Man, you staying healthy?
So, yeah, look at me. Of course, I'm a picture of health. It's really important to create clear boundaries in your life when you're traveling like this, to be able to stay healthy and wake up feeling good. You
have to. It's early. These trainings aren't always in the afternoon. They're not late. So well, it's been brilliant. I really thank you for coordinating your schedule and kind of taking some time out to chat about gin, chat about life, chat about Prince. I was just really want to chat about Prince for an hour. It was a roundabout way, I know, to get there, but eventually we got there. Lacy, thank you so much for stopping in Austin and educating us on Monkey 47, but thanks so much for chatting with me.
Thanks for having me, Mike.
Thank you. Well, there we have it. What do you guys think? Lacy Hawkins of Monkey 47 is a brilliant gin, delicious, full of flavor, and I'm glad that Lacy was able to spend some time with us here in Austin, Texas. the big brother, big sister, little sister to Portland. A lot of similarities in culture and the people. And I was so glad for Lacy to take some time out of her busy schedule here in Texas to sit down and chat. So thanks everybody for listening to Show to V with Mike G. No matter if you're thinking, was that Hulu purchase that Spotify offered as a promotion really a good idea or not? Or if you're thinking, Jason Bateman, man, that guy does not age a day ever. Looks just like he did in Teen Wolf 2. Please keep dancing.